My grandson called me in the middle of the night. Grandma, I'm at the police station. My stepfather beat me, but now he's telling them I attacked him. They believe him. When I arrived at the station, the officer on duty turned pale and stammering said, "I'm sorry, I didn't." Before we continue, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to hear my story. If you're comfortable, let me know where you're listening from, and what time it is where you are. Now let me tell you my story. The sound that rips you from sleep at 3:17 a.m. is a special kind of terror. It's not a sound, it's a violation. The shrill digital scream of my phone on the quiet mahogany of my nightstand felt like a physical blow. My heart, old and steady, hammered against my ribs. In my 68 years, a call at this hour has only ever meant one thing: death. I fumbled for the lamp, my hand shaking. My husband, Robert, had been gone for 5 years, but in this blurry, panicked moment, my first thought was of him. My second was of my son, Michael. My third, and most terrifying, was of my grandson. I snatched the phone. The screen was blinding. "Jamal? Jamal?" I said, my voice a dry, cracking thing. "Baby, what's wrong? Are you okay? Is your father, Grandma?" His voice, it wasn't the deep, confident baritone of my 16-year-old grandson, the one who had just made the varsity basketball team. It was a high, thin, terrified whisper. It was the voice of the 6-year-old boy who used to hide behind my legs. "Grandma, I'm at the police station, the 12th precinct. I'm in trouble." The blood in my veins turned to ice. "The police station? What happened? Where is your father?" "He's here," Jamal whispered, and his voice broke, a sob catching in his throat. He's with her, Grandma. Tasha, she went crazy. She was drinking, and she hit me. She threw a glass at me, Grandma. It cut my face." I was out of bed, my feet hitting the cold floor, already pulling my robe on. "I'm coming. I'm on my way right now. Tell the officer you want to wait for your grandmother. Do not say another word. Do you understand me, Jamal? Not one word." "Grandma, wait," he sobbed, and the terror in his voice escalated to sheer panic. That's not the problem. They're not listening to me. Tasha is telling them I attacked her. She's telling them I'm aggressive and dangerous." I stopped, one arm in the sleeve of my robe. "What?" "And Dad," he choked on the word. "Dad, he's agreeing with her. He's telling them I'm out of control. They're taking her statement. They're going to arrest me, Grandma. They're going to charge me. They believe her. Please, Grandma, please." The line clicked. He hadn't hung up. I knew with a mother's certainty that someone had taken the phone from him. I stood in the darkness of my bedroom, my heart no longer hammering. It was a cold, hard, steady piston. The fear was gone, replaced by a rage so pure, so focused it was almost serene. Tasha, my son's new volatile wife, and Michael, my son, my weak, cowardly son, corroborating a lie that would destroy his own child. They believed him. They were arresting my grandson. "I'm coming, baby," I whispered to the deadline. I walked to my closet. I didn't grab sweats. I didn't grab a coat. I pulled out my charcoal gray, impeccably tailored wool suit, the one I had worn to my retirement ceremony. They thought Grandma Evie was coming. They had no idea who was really on her way. They see Grandma Evie. When my son Michael and his new shiny wife Tasha look at me, that's what they see. They see a 68-year-old widow. A doting retired woman who spends her days gardening and volunteering at the public library. They see a sweet, slightly old-fashioned, but ultimately powerless family figure. They see the woman who bakes oatmeal raisin cookies, not the woman who wrote the book on legal precedent. My past career is, to them, just that. Past. Something I dabbled in a long time ago. Michael, bless his heart, once introduced me at a party as my mom. She used to be a lawyer or something. "I am Evelyn Hayes, Grandma Evie to Jamal." But to the rest of this city, to every cop, every lawyer, every bailiff, and every politician, I am the Iron Judge. I am not just retired, I am the recently retired Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court. For 40 years I served on the bench. 10 of those I was the Chief Justice. My portrait doesn't just hang in the courthouse. It hangs in the main hall, the one they walk past every single day. The Hayes opinions are required reading for every law student in this state. I didn't just interpret the law, in many cases I wrote it. I wrote the current state-level juvenile justice protocols. I chaired the commission that rewrote the domestic violence and evidence handling standards. The officer Jamal was talking to, the one who was about to charge my grandson, he was in a very real, professional and terrifying sense. My employee, he was operating under a system I had personally designed and overseen. My son, in his weak, desperate attempt to appease his new wife, had forgotten who his mother was. He had forgotten that I had spent a 40-year career professionally, methodically and joyfully dismantling liars. He had forgotten that I can smell a fabrication from a mile away, because I have had the best paid liars in the country. His colleagues, in the legal field, tried to fool me. Tasha, the usurper, thought she was in a fight with a rival, a difficult teen versus a crying new mom. She thought she was running a simple, emotional con on a jaded desk sergeant. She had no idea she was about to try and run that con on me. I finished buttoning my silk blouse. I put on my pearls. I looked in the mirror. My face was a mask of cold, controlled fury. Grandma Evie was gone. Chief Justice Hayes was back on the bench, and court was now in session. This mess had all started 6 months ago, but its roots went back further. My son Michael was a good man, but he was, and always had been, weak. His father, my Robert, was a strong, quiet man. Michael was a feather in the wind. He craved strong personalities, and he was, unfortunately, a terrible judge of them. His first wife, Alana, Jamal's mother, she was a rock. She was a kind, brilliant, funny woman, an engineer. She was Michael's anchor. She was the one who managed their lives, their finances, and frankly him. When she died of cancer 3 years ago, it was devastating. Not just for Jamal, who was 13, but for Michael. He wasn't just grieving his wife, he was grieving his spine. He was adrift. And then, 6 months ago, Tasha had drifted into his life. She was 35, beautiful in a hard, polished way, and she was the opposite of Alana. She was volatile, exciting, demanding. She was a social media manager, which seemed to mean she spent her days taking artful photos of her lattes. Where Alana had been a calm sea, Tasha was a hurricane, and my son, my weak, adrift son, mistook her chaos for strength. He mistook her demands for passion. They were married in a blur, a quick courthouse wedding that I was invited to witness, not bless. I saw the red flags immediately. I am, after all, a judge. I am paid to read people. Tasha was a classic high-functioning narcissist, and she was deeply pathologically jealous of Jamal. Jamal was not just Michael's son. He was the living, breathing proof of Michael's perfect first marriage. He was a 6'4" monument to Alana. He had his mother's eyes, her quick wit, her easy grace. And Tasha hated him for it. In her mind, Jamal was the rival. He was the one thing standing in the way of her having total control over Michael. She wasn't just a stepmother, she was the usurper, and she was trying to erase the old kingdom. I tried to warn Michael. I had him to my house for lunch. Michael, I said, she's hard on him. He's a good boy. He's just grieving. Mom, Michael said, with that frustrated sigh I was beginning to hate. You're not helping. You're doing it again. You're judging. Tasha is trying. Okay? It's not easy for her to step in and be a mother to a 16-year-old man. He's the one who needs to be more respectful. He's the one who's hard on her. He had already chosen his side. He was already parroting her words. The narrative was set. Jamal was the problem. Tasha was the victim. I knew then that this was not a family I could advise. This was a case I would have to watch. Tasha's strategy was as simple as it was evil. She couldn't attack Jamal's character. He was a straight-A student. He was polite. He didn't do drugs. He didn't even party. He was by all accounts a good kid. So she attacked his size. Jamal, like his father and grandfather, was big. At 16 he was already 6'2", muscular, and deep-voiced. He was a man, physically, and Tasha, who was a small, delicate-looking 5'4", used his very presence as a weapon against him. She began to build the narrative brick by brick, lie by lie. Jamal was aggressive. Jamal was intimidating. Jamal was a difficult teen. It started with microaggressions, all carefully staged for Michael. Jamal, honey, can you take out the trash? She'd ask in her sweet fake voice. I'll do it in a minute, Tasha. I'm in the middle of this homework. He'd call from his room. 10 minutes later, Michael would come home. Tasha would be crying at the kitchen table. What's wrong, baby? He'd ask, panicked. It's just, I asked Jamal to take out the trash and he yelled at me. Michael. He said, no. His voice was so aggressive. I'm scared to even ask him to do anything. He's so big. By the time Michael confronted Jamal, the story was set. Jamal? What the hell? You yelled at Tasha? She's scared of you, man. You're 16, you're a man, you can't be aggressive with her. She's your mother. She's not my mother, Jamal would yell, finally actually angry. I just said I'd do it in a minute. See? Tasha would cry from the kitchen. See how he is, Michael? It's frightening. It was a perfect inescapable trap. She'd poke him and poke him and poke him, and the second he finally justifiably reacted, she'd play the terrified fragile victim and he'd be the aggressive out-of-control man. She wasn't just gaslighting him, she was building her self-defense case preemptively. I saw it all. I told Jamal, baby, I know what she's doing. You can't win. She is setting a trap. Do not engage. You just survive until college. You come to my house, you stay with me. I can't, Grandma, he'd said, his voice heavy with a 16-year-old's misplaced sense of duty. I can't just leave my dad alone with her. He was trying to protect his father, and his father was about to let him be arrested to protect his new wife. The irony was so bitter, it made me sick. The final nail in the coffin of my son's spine had been hammered in 2 weeks ago. I was at their house for family dinner, an ordeal I subjected myself to once a week, just to lay eyes on Jamal. Jamal was stressed. He had a 10-page paper on the grapes of wrath due the next day. He'd been working on it on his laptop, at the dining room table. Jamal, I've told you, Tasha said, walking by. I don't want that ugly laptop on my beautiful dining table. Put it away. We're eating. In a second, Tasha, Jamal said, his eyes glued to the screen. I just have to finish this one paragraph. I'm almost done. No, Tasha said. Now, put it away. I don't want to look at it. Tasha, please, it's 10 pages, it's due tomorrow, just give me 5 minutes. You are so disrespectful, she snapped. And then, with a smile of pure calculated malice, she tripped over the power cord. The laptop was yanked off the table. It hit the hardwood floor with a sickening crack. The screen went black. Jamal just froze. His face went white. He looked at the dead laptop, at his 10 pages of work gone. Oh, oops, Tasha said, her hand flying to her mouth in a fake theatrical gasp. Oh, Jamal, I'm so clumsy. Oh no, was that your paper? Jamal stood up, his chair scraping back. He was trembling, his fists clenched, and he yelled. He didn't curse. He didn't threaten. He just yelled. What the hell, Tasha? You did that on purpose. You hate me. You erased it. Michael, Tasha shrieked, bursting into instant tears, the oops disappearing, replaced by abject terror. Michael, come here. He's screaming at me. Michael came running from the kitchen. He saw his wife sobbing. He saw his son 6'2", furious, standing over her, his fists clenched. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't look at the broken laptop. He didn't even hesitate. He grabbed Jamal by the arm. Don't you ever, he seethed, speak to my wife that way. Don't you ever raise your voice to her. She is just trying her best. And you are out of control.
But, Dad, the paper?
She broke my... I don't care. Michael yelled. Go to your room. Just go. You apologize to Tasha. Now. Jamal just looked at his father. His face. It wasn't anger anymore. It was defeat. The ultimate betrayal. He just broke. He said nothing. He just turned, walked to his room, and closed the door. Tasha, sobbing, buried her face in Michael's chest. I'm so scared of him, Michael. I don't feel safe. I know, baby, Michael said, rubbing her back, glaring at his son's closed door. I know. I'll handle it. That was the night I knew. I knew it wasn't a if. It was a when. I pieced the story together later, from Jamal, from the police report, from the transcript. That night, the night of the 911 call, Michael was late. He was at a client dinner. Tasha was home. And she had been drinking. Heavily. Jamal was in his room, on his new laptop, One I had bought him to replace the one Tasha tripped over, wearing headphones trying to finish his rewritten paper. Tasha started. She was lonely, she was drunk, and she was bored. She wanted to fight. She went to his room, she flung the door open. So this is it, you're just going to ignore me. You're just like her, aren't you? Jamal pulled his headphones off. What? Tasha, I'm doing my paper, the one you— Don't you dare, she hissed. Don't you dare bring that up. You think you and your grandmother, you think you're better than me. You think you can judge me. She was slurring, she was swaying, she was looking for a target. Tasha, you're drunk, Jamal said, standing up. Just go to bed. I don't want to fight. Oh, now you don't want to fight? She laughed, a bitter, ugly sound. But you're so big now, aren't you? A big tough man, just like all of them. She stalked into his room. She grabbed his phone off his desk. This is the problem. This is your grandmother. Plotting. You're probably recording me. Tasha, give me my phone back, Jamal said, his voice low, trying to stay calm. No, she shrieked. I'm your mother. You will respect me. You are not my mother, Jamal yelled, his 16-year-old patience finally snapping. My mother is dead. You're just the drunk who married my dad. It was the truth, and it was the one thing she couldn't handle. She slapped him, a hard, ringing, open-palmed slap that cracked across the room. Jamal, stunned, grabbed her wrists. He didn't hit her. He didn't shove her. He just held her. Stop it, Tasha. You're crazy. Let go of me. She screamed. She was like a wild animal. She broke free, stumbled back, and her eyes landed on the heavy glass tumbler of water on his desk. She grabbed it, and she threw it. She threw it at his head. Jamal ducked. The glass shattered against the wall behind him, a sound like a gunshot. Get out, he roared, finally, truly terrified. But Tasha was already screaming. A piece of the glass flying back had grazed Jamal's cheek. He put his hand up and it came away bloody. Tasha saw it. She saw the broken glass. She saw the blood on his face. And in her drunk, sociopathic, brilliant mind, she saw her story. She ran from the room screaming, he hit me. He's bleeding. He attacked me. He's crazy. She grabbed her own phone, and she dialed 911. Just as Michael's car pulled into the driveway. By the time I was dressed, wool suit, pearls, sensible heels, my old leather Supreme Court issued briefcase in hand, my driver was already waiting. I have a driver. I am 68, and I do not like to drive at night. My family thinks this is another sign of my frailty. They have no idea he is a retired police detective, who also serves as my head of security. Precinct 12, James, I said as I got in. And, step on it. Yes, Justice, he replied, his voice calm. I called the precinct from the car. 12th Precinct, Sergeant Miller. This is Evelyn Hayes, I said, my voice all business. I am the grandmother and legal counsel for a minor you have in your custody. Jamal Hayes. I am on my way. He is not to be questioned, processed or spoken to until I arrive. Am I understood? Mom, the voice on the other end was tired and deeply annoyed. He's here for a domestic assault charge. We've got the victim here, his stepmom. He attacked her. We're just processing him. You can see him in the morning. Officer, I said, my voice dropping to the temperature of a tomb. You will not process him. You will not charge him. You will put him in a quiet room, and you will wait for me. If I arrive and his name is on a single piece of paperwork, I will personally have your badge. Am I clear? There was a long, heavy silence. I had just in his world, threatened a cop. This was not a grandma. This was a problem. When you get here when you get here, ma'am, he said and hung up. I knew exactly what I was walking into. I knew the scene. I had seen it 1,000 times in my career. Tasha would be there, the victim, crying, her voice trembling. She'd be playing the fragile woman, terrified of her aggressive six-toe stepson. She'd be clutching her wrist or her arm, claiming he shoved her. Michael, my son, my coward, would be there, supporting his new traumatized wife. He'd be wringing his hands. He'd be saying all the things that would condemn his own son. He's been out of control, officer. He has a temper. She's so good to him. And he scares us. And I knew Officer Miller. Not personally, but I knew his type, the 50-year-old seen-it-all desk sergeant, the jaded cop who has heard every story. And this story, difficult teen attacks his poor stepmom. It was the easiest, simplest, most believable story in the world. He had already made up his mind. He had already tried, convicted, and sentenced my grandson in his head. He was sitting there typing up the report, 100% on Tasha's side. He was about to get the shock of his 30-year career. Jamal was sitting on a hard plastic bench, handcuffed to a steel bar. His cheek was throbbing. He could feel the dried, sticky track of blood on his skin. He was 16 years old, and he was for the first time in his life, utterly and completely alone. He'd tried to tell them when the first two officers arrived at the house. He'd tried. "She's lying," he'd shouted, as they put him in the back of the cruiser. "She threw a glass at me. Look at my face." "You can tell your story at the station, son," the officer had said, his voice bored. At the station he'd been put in a small windowless room. Officer Miller, the old tired-looking sergeant, had come in, a clipboard in hand. "Okay, kid, let's hear it. Why'd you hit your stepmom?" "I didn't," Jamal insisted, his voice cracking. "I would never. She was drunk. She slapped me. I just grabbed her wrists to stop her, to defend myself, and she grabbed a glass and threw it at me." Officer Miller had sighed, a long, deeply annoyed sound. He wrote nothing down. "She threw a glass at you, huh? A 5'4" woman, and you're, what, 6? "I don't know. 6'2". "Yeah. But defending yourself," Miller said, his pen tapping on the clipboard. "Kid, I've been doing this for 30 years. Defending myself is what every guy who loses his temper and shoves his wife says. Every single one. But I didn't. Look at my face. The glass cut me." Jamal pleaded, pointing to the gash on his cheek. "Yeah, I see it," Miller said, unimpressed. "Looks like a scratch. Probably got it when you were defending yourself. Maybe her ring caught you. What I know is that I have a victim, your stepmother in the next room, who is terrified of you. She's got bruises on her wrists, kid. Because I grabbed her, to stop her from hitting me." Yeah, okay," Miller said, standing up. "We're done here." And then his father Michael had come in, not alone, with her. Tasha was clutching his arm, weeping, her face buried in his shoulder. She wouldn't even look at Jamal. "Jamal," his dad said, his voice full of a crushing, weary disappointment. "Just tell the truth. Just admit what you did. Just apologize to Tasha. We can make this go away." Jamal's world just broke. He stared at his father. "Dad? He's lying." Tasha sobbed into Michael's chest. "Michael, I can't. I'm too scared. I want to go home." "I am telling the truth," Jamal screamed, standing up, the handcuffs rattling. "Dad, tell them what she's like. The laptop, tell them." Michael just flinched. He just flinched and looked away. "Jamal, just be quiet. You're making it worse. You scared her. You're a man now. You can't do this." He was siding with her, in front of the police. He was confirming the lie. Jamal just collapsed. He sat back on the bench. The fight gone. It was over. No one in the world believed him. Officer Miller watched the little family drama with a tired, jaded eye. He'd seen this exact play 100 times. 1,000. New wife. Angry, resentful teenage son from the first marriage. A weak, caught-in-the-middle dad. It was boilerplate. And in his 30 years one thing was almost always true. The big, angry 16-year-old kid was the problem. They were full of hormones, resentment, and a strength they didn't know how to control. And the new wife, Tasha, she was a perfect victim. Small, beautiful, articulate, and terrified. Her story was clean. I just asked him to turn his music down," she'd sobbed, clutching her sore wrist. "He just snapped. He grabbed me. He threw me on the floor. I thought he was going to kill me." "Did you throw a glass?" Miller had asked, just to check the box. "A glass?" Tasha had looked at him, her eyes wide with a perfect innocent confusion. "What? No, he threw the glass. At me. It missed. It hit the wall. And a piece. It must have hit him." Perfect, Miller thought. A perfect, self-contained, believable story. The cut on the kid's face, explained. The bruises on her wrist, explained. The aggressive teen, standing right there yelling at his poor weeping stepmom. He'd left Tasha and her husband in the waiting area, and gone back to his desk. Okay kid, he said to Jamal, we've seen this 100 times. You're a big kid, you lost your temper. You shoved your stepmom. It's a simple domestic assault. We're gonna charge you, process you. Your dad can bail you out in the morning, and a judge will probably give you probation and anger management. It's not the end of the world. Jamal didn't even look up. I want to call my grandmother, he whispered. Yeah, okay, Miller said, sighing. He pointed to the phone. One call, make it quick. He sat at his desk typing up the report. Victim Tasha Sterling states that the suspect Jamal Hayes' 16 stepson did knowingly and willfully, and then the phone on his desk rang. 12th Precinct, Sergeant Miller. This is Evelyn Hayes, a woman's voice said, cold, old, powerful. I am the grandmother and legal counsel for a minor you have in your custody. Jamal Hayes, I am on my way. He is not to be questioned, processed, or spoken to until I arrive. Am I understood? Miller's fingers stopped on the keyboard. Ma'am, he said, his voice full of annoyed condescension. He's here for a domestic assault charge. We've got the victim, his stepmom. He attacked her. We're processing him. You can see him in the morning. Officer, the voice on the other end said, and it dropped 20 degrees. You will not process him. You will not charge him. You will put him in a quiet room, and you will wait for me. If I arrive, and his name is on a single piece of paperwork, I will personally have your badge. Am I clear? Miller felt a jolt. This wasn't a grandma. This was someone. You can't threaten me, ma'am. It is not a threat, officer, the voice said. It is a procedural guarantee. You are currently in violation of the 2019 Hayes Mandate on Juvenile Due Process, which, I am sure, you are well aware of. I am 10 minutes away. Click. Miller stared at the phone. The Hayes Mandate? He had heard of that. It was the new set of rules from the Supreme Court, from Chief Justice Hayes. He felt his blood run cold. Evelyn Hayes? No. It couldn't be. She was retired. He sat there frozen, just in case. He stopped typing the report. He looked at Jamal, who was still sitting on the bench, just numb. Maybe he'd just wait. Just 10 minutes. The automatic doors of the 12th precinct slid open at 3:42 a.m. Officer Miller was at his desk, pretending to be busy, a knot of dread in his stomach. Michael and Tasha were in the waiting area. Tasha still performing her traumatized victim role, leaning her head on Michael's shoulder, and then, she walked in. Miller knew her. He didn't know her personally, but he knew her. Every cop in the city knew her. She was 68, but she walked with a ramrod straight posture that radiated pure unadulterated authority. She was in a simple but clearly very expensive charcoal gray wool suit, pearls and sensible polished black leather heels. She was flanked by a mountain of a man in a black suit who was carrying an old battered leather briefcase. She was not Grandma Evie. She was Chief Justice Evelyn Hayes, the Iron Judge, the woman who had, with a single opinion, personally dismantled the city's corrupt promotions board. The woman who had, on 3 separate terrifying occasions, come to this very precinct to do an unannounced inspection. Miller's blood, it froze. He looked at her. He looked at the 16-year-old suspect on the bench, who was now crying in relief. Grandma. And Miller finally saw it. The resemblance, the same eyes, the same bone structure. He realized, in the deepest, most career-ending trouble of his entire 30-year life. He had just tried to charge the grandson of Chief Justice Hayes. He scrambled to his feet, his chair shrieked back, and he knocked over his half-full cold coffee cup, which spilled dark and bitter, all over the arrest report he had just stupidly started to refill. Judge, Chief Justice Hayes. Miller's voice was a high, terrified squeak. He was stammering. He was fumbling, trying to salute, or bow. He didn't know what to do. He was grabbing napkins, frantically trying to wipe up the coffee that was dripping off his desk onto his pants. I, I'm so sorry, Your Honor, he babbled, his face a blotchy, terrified red. I didn't know. I didn't know he was your. Tasha and Michael just stared. They were completely confused. They saw Grandma Evie. Why was this cop, this sergeant, bowing to her? Why was he stammering? Your Honor, Tasha whispered, her voice full of contempt. What is he talking about? Judge? You lied to me. You told me she was just retired. I just ignored her. I walked right past her. I walked to Jamal. Grandma, he wept, burying his face in my suit. I held him, and I looked at Officer Miller. My voice was not loud. It was quiet. It was cold. Officer Miller, I said. You handcuffed my grandson. Officer Miller looked at the handcuffs on Jamal's wrist as if he'd just seen them. Your Honor, it's protocol. A domestic assault case. We had to separate them. The victim, she said he attacked her. He was fumbling for his keys. His hands were shaking so badly that he couldn't get the key in the lock. It's policy. Your Honor, he stammered, sweat beading on his forehead. Click. The handcuffs fell open. I rubbed my grandson's wrist. The victim? I said, my voice still quiet. I turned, slowly, to Tasha and Michael. They still didn't understand the power in the room. They still thought this was their show. Yes, Tasha snapped, her victim persona returning. She thought I was intimidating the cop. Officer, are you going to let her talk to you like that? I want to press charges. He assaulted me. I want him arrested. Officer Miller looked at Tasha. He looked at me, and in that moment he made his choice. He wasn't a jaded cop anymore. He was a man trying to save his pension. Mom, he said to Tasha, his voice suddenly cold and official. I need you and your husband to sit down. We are going to retake your statements. Separately. Retake? Michael squeaked. But we already told you. Sit down, sir, Miller ordered. The power had shifted. Completely. I remained standing. I looked at my son. Michael, I said. He flinched. He wouldn't look at me. You let this happen, I stated. It wasn't a question. You stood by and corroborated a lie that would have put your own son in handcuffs on a felony charge. Mom, she was scared, he pleaded, his voice weak. He is so big, he yelled. I see, I said, my voice like ice. And this woman, I turned my gaze to Tasha. She actually recoiled. You assaulted my grandson. You threw a glass at his head, and then you called the police and claimed he attacked you. I didn't. Tasha lied, her eyes darting wildly to Miller. She's lying. He admitted he shoved me. Officer, tell her. Officer Miller looked at his shoes. He knew he was trapped. Officer Miller, I said, my grandson has a visible laceration on his cheek, the result of your victim's assault with a deadly weapon. A glass tumbler. I want his injuries documented. Now, I want your victim photographed. Now, I want her checked for marks. I want the glass fragments from that wall bagged as evidence. Now, and I want to see your incident report. All of it. I hadn't raised my voice. I had just given a series of non-negotiable orders. Miller was falling over himself. Yes, Your Honor, right away, Your Honor. I'll get the detective on duty. I'll get the kit. He grabbed the report he was writing and visibly ripped it in half. Tasha's face went white. She wasn't the victim anymore. She was the suspect.
Wait!
Tasha shrieked, the act dropping. You can't. He admitted he shoved me. Michael, tell them. Make them stop. Michael looked at his wife. He looked at his son. He looked at me. And in that moment he knew. He had lost. He had backed the wrong person. He had betrayed his son for nothing. He just sank into a chair, his head in his hands. Mom, it was a mistake, he whispered. Yes? I said. It was, you made a terrible one. I turned to Officer Miller, who was now holding a camera and an evidence bag. Officer, I said, I am taking my grandson home. Now, he is the victim of a violent assault, and he needs medical attention for his face. But the report? Tasha cried. Yes, I said, you will be filing a report. Jamal will be filing his report, and I will be filing mine. Officer, I want her charged. Assault with a deadly weapon. filing a false police report, and child endangerment. I am sure you can handle that now. Miller nodded, his face grim. Yes, Your Honor, we can. Mom, no, Michael pleaded, looking up. She's my wife. You can't. You are a coward, Michael, I said, my voice flat. You let this happen. You chose her. Now she can choose her lawyer. I suggest she get a good one. I put my arm around Jamal. I led my bleeding, vindicated grandson out of the police station, leaving Tasha and Michael standing there, humiliated, exposed and alone, in the harsh fluorescent light.
The end. Thank you for watching.